Hey everybody, welcome to another Survivor Week video. This time talking about picks for NFL Week 4. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content, and let us know in the comment section who you're taking this week or any questions that you may have as the week progresses. Looking at the 7 teams I picked out this week, a little top heavier with a few teams favored by close to a touchdown or more, with the rest of the teams this week being a lot tighter games. You see the Packers here, the highest spread, the only team favored by more than a touchdown. And then some familiar teams like the Chargers and Eagles favored by 6.5, 7 points. And the Lions, surprisingly, big favorites heading into this week, something you don't see very often out of Detroit. Taking a look at the schedule preview here, there are teams like, Buffalo, the Packers, and the Eagles, where you're going to have plenty of opportunity to pick them later in the season. And then some teams like Detroit, Pittsburgh, and the Giants that you might not have too many opportunities throughout the rest of the season to pick them. So as always, we talk about the teams that I think you should be a little bit wary of in picking and maybe should consider avoiding this week in Survivor. The first one of those teams are the Bills on the road against the Ravens. Obviously, the Bills coming off a loss against the Dolphins. I really don't see the Bills losing 2 games in a row. I think they're too good for really that to happen. But right now, Lamar Jackson is just cooking with the Ravens offense. And when he's looking as good as he's looking, it's hard to, pick a game against Lamar Jackson at home with the Ravens and try to hope that they lose that one. Ravens defense hasn't been looking as good as I thought it would this year, and I think the Bills are probably going to exploit that. But I expect this game to be a really high-scoring affair. Whenever there's a ton of points being put up, you never want to be on the wrong end of a Lamar Jackson epic game. So I think it'd be best to avoid the Bills this week, especially given the fact that they're going to be favored by so many more points against other teams that I just showed on that schedule later in the year. Not really a good time to pick the Bills, and not really the safest pick in my opinion. And I think Vegas agrees here with the line. The other one I want to talk about is the Chargers. Probably knocked a lot of people out if they weren't monitoring the Justin Herbert injury situation, but he definitely didn't look like himself, even though he did play in that loss against the Jaguars. On the road, never something you like to pick anyways, but the main story here is just Justin Herbert is not playing like himself right now, and I don't think he's going to be able to with that rib injury for a little bit. So probably best to avoid the Chargers right now if you can, given Herbert's health and his status moving forward. Moving on to the best pick, as it so often is the team that's favored by the most points here. Packers at home against a non-divisional opponent. Very great situation to be in. The Packers and their defense is the story this year, which I think we all knew going into the season that the offense was going to be the laggard of that team a little bit with their young wide receiving core. But this defense has stepped up in a huge way. They get such a good pass rush just by rushing 4 guys. Great guys in the secondary. Really guys flying around the field at all levels of the defense. And that's really what gives the Packers a chance to win the games like they've been doing against the Buccaneers. Obviously, a Super Bowl contender there. The Patriots here with Mac Jones, I really don't like their offense. It seems very stifled and muted. I think the Packers defense is going to be able to shut them down pretty much all game. I wouldn't expect too many points from the Patriots. The Packers offense might not be as prolific as it used to be with guys like Devontae Adams on the roster, but certainly with their run game between Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, they're going to be able to put up, 21 plus points, and that's all they're going to need to be able to beat the Patriots at home. Rodgers, once he gets going and gets a feel with this team, I think as the weeks go by and he gets more and more comfortability with these young receivers, they're just going to continue to roll, especially, at a game at Lambeau. I really expect the Packers to easily take care of the Pats, as I don't think you're going to see a lot from Mac Jones and the Patriots offense this game. So now, absolutely the best pick. A lot of people don't always like to go to the best pick and, stash the Packers and other people for later in the season. So you're looking at value. I think it's always good to take a look at the weekly schedules going forward. You'll notice here there's one team here that doesn't have any green squares, and that is the Detroit Lions. Really uncharted territory for these guys trying to pick them in a Survivor League. But here they are favored by 6 points at home against Seattle, who just lost against the Falcons at home. Lions offense is looking great this year. So far, the defense is what's really holding them back. But teams like the Giants too, not a ton of games on their schedule. Same with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are hosting the Jets this week. So a couple of teams that you could consider for the value pick, but I think it's got to be the Lions this week is the best value pick. I think there are some other good values. Best one being the Lions. You're really not going to pick the Lions much this season, as I just showed you. I think maybe at home versus the Bears, would be a good spot for them, but that's also a divisional matchup. Not a ton of out of divisional games that I really like for the Lions this year. This is one of them. They're at home. They're coming off a loss. They look very proficient on offense. Seattle does not look that great. They just lost to the Falcons. Geno Smith is human. Is not, as good as he was playing in the first few weeks. Seattle's due for some negative mean regression, just the way they played offense and the amount of points they've been putting up. I think the strength of the Seattle team is their defense, but that's not saying a ton. And I think the Lions offense will be able to outmatch the strength of the Seahawks defense. Lions been able to put up a lot of points and, look really good in offense with Goff throwing the ball a lot, like Josh Reynolds, Amon-Ra St. Brown is obviously having a great year. DeAndre Swift out of the backfield, Jamal Williams running hard between the tackles. Obviously, TJ Hawkinson has been their stud tight end for a little bit too. So a lot of weapons on this Detroit offense as their defense slowly puts together throughout the season. I think they'll be able to handle the Seahawks. And I think good value here for the Lions if you're trying to keep the Packers for later in the season. There are definitely some other value picks, like I said, like the Steelers. I'm not favored by that much. 3.5 isn't, obviously that much. And the Steelers offenses definitely look sluggish. And their defense without TJ Watt has looked a little slow too. But yeah, not really many opportunities to pick the Steelers this year. So at home versus the Jets, it might be something you consider. And right now, this Bears-Giants game, I think if the Giants win on Monday night against the Cowboys, you're going to see this line move up to more like the 3.5 line. The Bears are terrible offensively, at least in the passing game. Yeah, they can run the ball with, Khalil Herbert and Montgomery Reason too, but they have no ability to pass the football with Justin Fields out there. And the Giants surprisingly look pretty good, definitely, formidable on each side of the football. And with the Bears playing some of the most one-dimensional football I've ever seen, I don't know how they really beat any team. I can't believe they even beat the Texans. So I think the Giants, if you're really in a pinch or really trying to play strategy games here against the other people, could be some good value against the Bears. So just to recap, I think the Packers are the best pick, and that's who I would be going with in all likelihood, barring any crazy news this week. Again, I think their defense is the main story here. One of the best units in football, able to get so much of a QB pressure with only rushing 4 guys, allowing to drop back 7 in coverage. Rodgers is still Rodgers, not going to turn the ball over, going to find his receivers and pick apart any defense that's thrown in front of him, do his best to put his team in a position to win, and that's what I expected for them to do at home. I would stay away from the Chargers and because of Justin Herbert's health and injury, and then stay away from the Bills too, just because the Ravens seem to be putting up a ton of points lately, and that's something you're really not going to want to pick in the Bills on the road here in the situation, even though they are coming off a loss. Eagles, and I think a lot of people are going to be asking me about picking the Eagles this week. It's not a bad pick, but this Jags defense is starting to impress me more and more as the weeks go on. And I do think the Eagles are for a real football team, but I think the 7 points is a lot. I think it's a little bit misleading. And I think the Jaguars, under new head coach Doug Peterson, look pretty good, much better than I thought they would be this year. So as I'm still trying to figure out the Jags and assess their actual skill level and their potential as a team, I think it's best to stay away from the Eagles just in case. And then again, some value with like the Steelers and the Giants too, but that's a little more risky and kind of too much risk for my taste. So yeah, going with the Packers, but if you're really trying to, play the strategy game, I think the Lions hosting the Seahawks is a pretty good pick too. But that'll be all for me this week. The survivor leagues are, getting more and more thin as the weeks wear on. And, hopefully you're doing well and in a position that you can win it this year. And best of luck in week 4 survivor.